visible. It rode in a cross-draw holster along the front of his belly and was powerful enough to stop a 300-pound heavy. Rebo's trousers were black, baggy, and gathered around a pair of worn lace-up boots. All in all, the sort of outfit that thousands of the planet's middle-class citizens sported every day. Because of that, and the fact that there was nothing inherently threatening about the man who stood by the arch, the locals ignored the runner as they set out for the local bakery, hawked their wares, or made their way into one of the local taverns. Satisfied that no one was following him or otherwise monitoring his movements, Rebo consulted the map. He was looking for Merchant Marley Telvas, a wealthy businessman who was said to live in the Reservoir District. Now, having passed the man-made lake from which the area took its name, the runner was on the lookout for landmarks that would help him identify the correct dwelling. He spotted the top of a small spire, figured it was the same 50-foot-tall obelisk that appeared on his map, and started in that direction. As the runner drew closer, a vine-covered 12-foot-high wall appeared on his right, a sure sign that someone had something worth stealing. It turned out that the spire was firmly planted on an island located in the middle of the street just opposite a pair of well-varnished wooden gates. The city's police force, or guard as it was commonly known, was notoriously understaffed, incompetent, and corrupt. That meant that everyone who could afford to do so paid members of the Watchkeepers Guild for extra protection, be it heavily armed norms like those who lounged in front of the gates directly across from Rebo, or the cudgel-toting heavies who patrolled the better neighborhoods during the night. The runner looked both ways before crossing the street. While none of the brightly uniformed watchmen looked to be especially bright, one of them proved to be fairly assertive. His voice was gruff. "I don't know what you're selling, citizen, but it's safe to say that Merchant Telvas already has one of them." Rebo could be charming when he chose to be. He summoned his best smile and displayed the lightning bolt that had been tattooed onto the inside surface of his left forearm when he was 12. "I'm a runner. Is Merchant Telvas home?" "What difference does it make?" the watchman demanded. "Give me the message and I will deliver it for you." Rebo shook his head, saw that the other watchmen were moving to flank him, and took 3 steps back. He hooked his right thumb into the gun belt only inches from the hogger, and the effort to surround him stopped. "Thanks," the runner said evenly, "but I am required to put the message into his hands. That's what it says in the guild book, and that's what I have to do." The head watchman wasn't surprised. Even though the runner had already been paid by the person who had sent the message, he wanted to deliver it personally in hopes of a generous tip. A perfectly understandable motivation, but one that he planned to quash. If anyone was to receive a tip, the guard believed that it should be him. "Okay," the watchman growled, "but no weapons. They stay with us." It was a ticklish moment. The request was reasonable, since members of the Assassin's Guild had been known to impersonate runners, even going so far as to have fake guild marks tattooed onto their skins. But once Rebo surrendered his weapons, he would be at the watchman's mercy. Would they allow him to pass? Or take the box and deliver it themselves? Or worse yet, take the box, keep his weapons, and send him packing? He could summon the guard, but ultimately it would be his word against theirs. Time seemed to stretch thin, and Rebo was about to back away when Yuba, the goddess of luck, came to his rescue. There was a loud clatter as a bell rang. A small engine-drawn cart rounded a corner, and the driver shouted at a pedestrian foolish enough to cross the street in front of it. The conveyance was little more than a box on wheels, but still managed to convey a sense of importance via its well-oiled leather roof, pristine paint job, and the enormous brass lanterns mounted to either side of the brightly clad driver. The genetically engineered animal that stood between the traces still bore a strong resemblance to the horses from which it was descended, except that the engine was stronger, faster, and even more graceful. A man leaned out of a window as the cart ground to a halt. He had a full face, sensual lips, and wore a bright yellow turban decorated with a white feather. "What's going on here? Open the gate!"